Hi, I'm Kay.
I'm Kayha.
And you're watching. So Neha and I just finished our first year at college.
And we got a lot of questions about college, so we wanted to answer them in the video.
First, we're going to explain a little bit about the schools that we went to. I go to Mills. It's a small, historically all-women's school in Oakland, California. It's about 1,000 undergrad students. We have pretty small class sizes. My smallest class was 3 people. My largest class was probably 30 people. So overall, we have pretty small class sizes. And I took 4 classes both semesters.
And I went to Northern Kentucky University, which is a pretty big-sized public college in Kentucky. And even though it's pretty big, our class sizes aren't usually too big. They're about maybe 20 or 30 people. And I took 5 classes first semester and 6 classes second semester.
So the questions that we got are on my phone. Just going to read them and we'll answer them. So first question is, what is your major?
Well, I am a psychology major.
And do you have a minor?
Yes, my minor it's kind of weird. It's a minor in the honors program. And the honors department has a certain set of classes that you take. So, yeah.
And I'm majoring in women's gender and sexuality studies with an emphasis in queer studies. I'm not really sure about my minor yet. I'm considering theater, or there's another one, women's leadership. And the other one I'm kind of thinking about is arts and technology. So we'll see what happens.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. What are the classes you take So for my major in women's gender sexuality studies, a lot of them are humanities classes. So the majority of them, it's a lot of essay writing, which I'm pretty okay at. I feel like I've gotten better definitely through the years. So I would suggest that if you are going into humanities major like we are, to definitely look into making your essay writing skills stronger. I don't know about did you write a lot of essays?
Yeah,
definitely.
Mine are, I don't think they're as freeform as yours. There's a lot more standardized testing.
That's probably another difference between going to a private school versus a public school. Like you explained, there are a lot more standardized testing kind of situations, whereas when you have smaller class sizes like at a private school, it's less of that. The next question is, did you have a job while you were in college?
So I work as a writing tutor, and I think it helped me a lot with my social skills and stuff, because I learned to interact one-on-one with people I didn't know. And I think personally that really helped me.
That's cool. Yeah, that's one thing. My school has a writing center, and it was really helpful to go into. So if you have a writing center or peer tutoring or something, definitely go.
Yeah, it's usually free.
And then I did not work while I was in school, but I did have a job this summer and last summer and over the winter.
Where'd you work in?
I worked at Forever 21 in our mall. Yeah, it was great. If you want to see a video about working at Forever 21, I can make one. So comment below if you want to see that. Next question is, how do you make friends? One is, when it's the first week of school or orientation or whatever, leave your door open.
My roommates did that, and it was really cool. Some people would just stop by and say hi.
And it was really great because I lived right next to our RA. And then I guess my second tip is to eat your first couple of meals with the people who live around you. At my school, we all had, they were kind of I know some schools call them learning communities or something.
That's what our school called them.
Yeah. I guess we just called them themes. But I was in performing arts, and it was really great to get to know everyone on my floor because we all were really passionate about performance, which was great. And then my last tip is to talk to people who are in your classes because that's how you can make study groups and also make new friends from people who are in your major. Do you have any more tips?
Yeah, so my first tip is kind of similar. put yourself out there, especially like orientation weekend. It's awkward at first because like it feels weird to just approach someone and say hi, but like everyone else feels awkward too because like no one knows anyone.
And then also, last tip for making friends is if your school has a Facebook page, join it. Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes.
Yeah. Our last tip officially is if people ask you to hang out, like hang out with them.
Yeah.
You know? Like sometimes my friends, it would be like 11 or something and they'd be like, let's go get ice cream. And I'd be like, sounds cool. So the next question is, did you get homesick and how did you overcome your homesickness? Personally, I got homesick a lot because so my school, it's about a 5-hour plane ride from Ohio to California. And that means that I, have to deal with only going home over winter break and summer break. And I also have to deal with time differences. But my advice is if you are in a situation where your school is maybe far away from home or you can't go home during breaks, is definitely become friends with people who are also going to be staying at school. And also, like, Skyping is something really useful. We Skyped a couple times.
Yeah.
And also, there's this thing called Rabbit.
I love Rabbit.
Rabbit's so good.
It's like Skype, but you have a shared screen.
So you can, like, go on Netflix or something, watch a show together, or if you want to show them, like, a website that you're thinking about, you can go to that website. It's so good. I love Rabbit.
Rabbit is amazing.
A lifesaver, yeah.
Personally, I didn't really get homesick because I live about 25 minutes from my house. So... But I get that because I get homesick really easy, and that's part of the reason I stay close to home.
Yeah. So if you're still in the process of picking your college, definitely consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I thought I was just so over Ohio and I could just leave, and no, I actually miss it. This question was submitted by one of my friends. How long until your roommate can see you naked?
That's a good question.
I didn't have a roommate, so...
I don't think I've ever been butt naked in front of my roommates, you know, to put it bluntly. But, like, changing and stuff, like, no one really cared. Like, we just did it. I was like the first time I changed, I was like, hey guys, I'm changing. And they're like, okay. And I just turned away and changed.
Yeah, I've changed in front of my friends a couple times when they've been in my room hanging out. But also, with that being said, be sure that you're maintaining the guidelines that you have in your room. So if you and your roommates have decided that someone's uncomfortable with that, like, don't.
Yeah.
And also, be sure that you're mindful when you're walking in the halls. Because at my school, we had, like, the bikini rule if you were going to be out in the hall. And then I went to visit one of my friends at another school, and someone was just walking down the hall without clothes on, and I was like, where's your bikini? It was so shocking. But just be sure that you know your school's rules. The next question is, how do you get along with your roommates?
I get along pretty well with my roommates. One thing I did to get to know them was, like, I ate my first few meals with them. Even though there are, like, some people at NKU that I already knew and could have had food with, like, I kind of wanted to get to know my roommates more. And I think that definitely helped a lot, and that made us closer.
I didn't have a roommate, but I did have a porch mate. We, like, shared the porch. And I think the main thing is just, like, to communicate early on if there's an issue. Because we ended up... The porch light was, like, constantly on, and I just kind of, like, ignored it for the first couple of months. But by the end of school, I was, like, so sick of the porch light being on. But by that point, I was like, we're 5 months in, I can go another month. So I just let the porch light be on. So, yeah, if you have an issue with something, communicate it early on. Another one is, what do you do for fun?
For fun, I usually hang out with friends. I think that's by far what I spend most of my time doing.
Yeah.
And it can even just be little things. It's like, hey, let's all meet up in the library and study for this class. Or like, let's go get coffee at the Starbucks nearby. Like, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just spending time with your friends is really fun.
Yeah, I think the majority of the stuff that I did at college was just, like, sitting in someone's room and watching, like, Netflix on someone's computer. We definitely did that, and if we wanted to go off campus, because our campus is so small, we didn't have anything on campus. But we would go to Target for fun. We had great times at Target. Or sometimes we would go into San Francisco if we were feeling adventurous, and we would go to the beach. One time, our classes started at like 5, so we went to the beach before class one day. And then other times we went to like the animal shelter and just kind of hung out with the animals if we were starting to like feel kind of homesick about our pets and stuff. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I would say another thing is if your campus has events, like my campus, they would have like an event every night. And so definitely like go to them and like find out what they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of the things that I really liked about college is that your classes are at such weird times. You have time to do other stuff during the day.
Right, exactly.
Because with high school, like I never even thought about hanging out with a friend after school ended. Yeah.
Yeah, my schedule, it's really great how you can like make your own schedule. Like, that's not much to say.
No, but talk about making schedules.
I only had class Tuesday through Thursday. So my Mondays and Fridays were completely free, and I only had one class on Wednesday.
Yeah, I also, my second semester, I didn't have any class on Friday, and it was probably one of the best decisions I made.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am very much an introvert, so I need my alone time, and usually I need like at least a full day every weekend to just like be by myself and not leave at all.
Yeah.
And so that was great that I had Fridays like that because my friends would be in class and I wouldn't have to worry about someone being like, let's go to Target. See, I really liked that aspect of it.
I would recommend if you can keep one day of the week open, do that.
Yeah, and just like know yourself. Like if you need a day like Wednesday to break up your week without class, do that. If you need it at the end of the week, like Friday, like we did, do that. And also know yourself when you're doing class scheduling. Like if you think you're going to utilize a break between classes, then schedule that. If you don't think you are, then don't schedule it. Definitely, I work best with like blocked schedules, but some people work best with one class in the morning and then a big break and one class at night.
Another thing I'll say is don't schedule 8 a.m. classes just to make yourself wake up early. Like, all of my roommates did that except me because I was like, I'm not going to wake up at 8.
Yeah.
Like, my earliest class was right before noon. So that was great. And, like, my roommate said that she picked an 8 a.m. class because she thought she'd wake up for it, but she ended up just skipping it a bunch of times. Yeah. So, like, if you don't think you can wake up that early, then don't schedule it like that.
Yeah. Don't. Even though the change from high school to college, you're going to change some, you're not going to change that much. So if you know something works for you.
And also, like, don't schedule a night class if you're not going to go to it.
No.
Because, like, there are those 3-hour night classes, and some people can do them, but some people just can't. Like, just what she said, know yourself.
Yeah, like, I did originally have a night class scheduled, and I ended up dropping it before even the first class meeting because I was like, I know I can't sit through 2.5 hours of this. And it was one day a week and it was too much. I just know now that I can only do that hour at a time. Last question is, do you have any study tips? So I really love to use planners. Planners are like, I love planners. I started a new planner system. It's called a bullet journal. If you want to know more about a bullet journal, I'll make a video. Comment below if you want to find out about bullet journals. So if you're used to using a planner, use a planner. And I am so excited to get back to school and start using my planner again. I missed it. Oh, I missed it so much. I really find flashcards to be helpful to me. So one time we had like an earthquake drill
Oh my god.
Yeah.
California
and it was,
things.
Yeah, just California things. But so it was the day of my exam, the one that I had to study for. And I was just out there during the drill doing my flashcards, and it was great. I learned everything really well.
Another thing I'll say is go to the tutoring center because they're super helpful if you're having trouble with something.
Yeah, or do homework with a friend that's in the class, so then if you do come up with questions, you can bounce them off each other.
Yeah, and they can really help you keep on track because they'll be like, did you finish this assignment? What'd you do for this?
Yeah, also with when you're doing essays, I found it really helpful to talk to friends about it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Like find out what they're doing and kind of like use some of their tips for it. So yeah.
And don't be afraid to talk to your professor.
Yeah, and they'll usually get really excited about what you're doing too. I've had professors tell me that they told their friends about the essay I was writing and stuff, and that was like great. I loved it.
On the topic of professors, make connections. I know people say that all the time, it's annoying, but you have to make connections because like for my scholarship essay that I had to write, they asked for a faculty recommendation, and luckily I talked to a few of my professors so I could ask them for one of it, but like my friend who hadn't talked to any of her professors, she didn't have anyone to ask for a recommendation. So definitely get to know your professors.
Yeah, and even after your class is over, like feel free to talk to them. Like if you see them around campus, definitely say hi so that you keep that connection going.
Yeah.
So that was our Q&A all about college.
If you want to see more of us, check out our main channel, KayhaMusic.
And check out our social media, which is going to be linked below.
And give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and comment below with any questions about college that we didn't answer.
We'll be sure to answer them for you. And we'll see you in the next video.